Hey everybody, we are excited to have you here for our live stream all about the BP-TRX, what it is, what it does, and how you are going to be able to use it in the future on your film sets. I know it has been a long wait to get this product out the market. It's been 2 years for us, 1 year for you guys, but I think the wait is going to be worth it. At the end of the day, what this does is not going to be anything you've ever seen before, and I think it's going to really impress what we ended up doing with it since the last time you guys did see it. And to do that, we have a video for you guys right now.
Do more, carry less. These words have defined Deity Microphones, and now they mean more than ever. Introducing the BP-TRX, a timecode-based recorder that can transmit or receive wireless audio. The BP-TRX is here to revolutionize what you can do with sound on set. The BP-TRX is the ultimate audio multi-tool, essential for sound mixers, camera operators, and everyone in between. As a pocket recorder that also simultaneously transmits audio, you never need to worry about signal drops. And the built-in guardrail analog limiter prevents clipping. The record feature can even be triggered wirelessly by the Deity Connect, giving you the most stress-free audio experience possible. The BP-TRX is equipped to transmit signals as strong as 100 milliwatts, and our new SMA antenna is 20% more efficient and stable than ever. The BP-TRX also features advanced frequency hopping protocol, which means that in congested environments, it scans and changes frequency every 1.5 milliseconds to find the best possible signal. We know that recording sound demands perfect synchronization, and the BP-TRX delivers. Timecode means that your audio will always sync in a flash, with only one frame drift every 24 hours. The BP-TRX can also accept external timecode via the mic input jack, or it can generate its own timecode internally and output a signal for other devices to sync with. An easy-to-navigate menu allows you to operate in different modes that prioritize access to the features you need most. And when you need that extra functionality, the BP-TRX can even become a receiver itself. A single BP-TRX can transmit to up to 4 BP-TRX units operating in either IEM or camera hop mode. But the best tool is only as good as its battery. A 2800 milliamp hour lithium-ion cell is the heart of the BP-TRX. When functioning exclusively as a timecode recorder, users will get over 21 hours of battery life, making it the longest-lasting battery of any timecode recorder. It fully charges in a mere 130 minutes. And when used as just a timecode box, that battery life extends to over 25 hours. Finally, the BP-TRX seamlessly integrates with all of our wireless products and offers the same low-cut filters, analog limiters, locking inputs, and high-frequency boost features that Deity has become known for. The BP-TRX is built to bridge gaps, to let your camera and sound teams work together in the most productive way. At Deity, we've done our best to keep pushing the boundaries of the 2.4 gigahertz ecosystem, and we're thrilled to take it to the next level.
Well, that's everything. I mean, we could definitely go more into it, but I think that film pretty much sums a lot up. So let's actually now go into that whole lot more. So let's actually take a look at what the BP-TRX truly is at the end of the day. The BP-TRX is a device that's not like anything else on the market. It's an ARM-based computer with 5 different types of I/O. The I/O being that of wireless I/O, timecode I/O, analog audio I/O, digital I/O, and of course the record and playback module, and that goes into the rest of the whole system. So with those 5 types of I/O, what we have here is a device that can be kind of anything it wants to be, depending on what you need it to be for the day. So let's talk about the presets that we've pre-built that interconnect all that I/O through the ARM-based processor. So the BP-TRX, we like to call it a transceiver plus. What does that really mean though? It means it can be a transmitter. Well, of course it can be a transmitter. That's kind of the first and foremost thing that most people are going to want to use this for. Of course, it can be a pocket recorder. With its small size, it can fit in most pants pocket. It can be clipped to a pair of pants, or it can be used as a plant recorder in things like a car. This is going to be a great device for a lot of people, just these 2 features alone. But because it's a transceiver plus, it can also be a receiver. Now, if a device can be a receiver, it could be an IM, which means you could then monitor audio wirelessly if you were to connect it up and plug a pair of headphones in. Well, if it can be an IM, why can't it be also a camera hop? If it can be a camera hop, then we can output timecode based on that recorder module and audio out the output, just like it would be if it's a IM, and plug both of those into a camera, and we've got timecode and audio going to the same device, which means a timecode kind of camera setup could then run away, could be out of distance, out of transmission range, but still be in sync with the rest of the system, making it a perfect camera hop. And of course, if it can do timecode output to a camera, why don't we just have it be a timecode box altogether and just have it be locked in as a timecode box by itself. And again, by doing all that and turning off all the transmitters and receiver modules, we can actually get more battery life. And if we want extra battery life as just something that can run for a very long time, we can turn everything off and just make it a USB audio interface device, because that digital I/O via the USB-C input. From there, you could just plug this into a computer and just run with it as your audio interface for a lot of laptops that no longer have 3.5 millimeter jacks. So let's talk about transmit and record mode. Transmit record mode means you can transmit and record simultaneously on all the international sold versions, and units sold inside the United States currently are still limited to just record or transmit. As soon as you hit record currently on the US firmware units, the transmission mode does turn itself off. The multiple RF outputs allow you to have multiple ranges, so you can actually increase the battery if you really absolutely need extra battery. So you can go up to 100 milliwatts. The guardrailed analog limiter allows you to really be rest assured your audio is not going to clip internally. We know a lot of people have been asking for things like 32-bit recording, and while that is a wonderful tool, 24-bit with an analog recorder is traditionally what people use when they actually make TV and Hollywood production movies. So with 24 bits, you have plenty of headroom for dialogue. And with that analog recorder, no matter how high the human voice can get, we'll bring it right back down into negative 12 dB range, so you're not going to clip internally. So you can rest assured knowing full well that what you are doing is going to look great. We also have a variable low-cut filter built into each unit. What this allows is the fact that if you are dealing with something like the hum of the road in a car or an air conditioner that you can't turn off because you don't have controls over it, you can go up to 200 hertz in the low-cut filter and really kind of help dial in and reduce some of those noises. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be purists and they're going to say, I'm never going to use that feature. Well, the day you do need it, it is there. A lot of these kinds of features that we've added are features that you may not need day to day, but they're available to you on the day that it is mission critical. And something like a low-cut filter for quick turnaround productions where you're not having to go through post and do a whole lot of EQ and audio processing because the video has to get done like in a day or two, really fast kind of work, and you still have to be the person to color and edit and do everything else. Capturing with the low-cut filter turned on is a real nice benefit to speeding up your workflow if you're kind of a one-man band operator. And of course, the BP-TRX can also act as with mono microphones or stereo line level signals. Again, if you are using this in stereo mode, you could output a stereo signal to a camera and transmit something like if you're trying to do something from a DJ board to your camera at a wedding, or if you're trying to do something else that is stereo for the moment. It really kind of just lends itself to whatever it is you need it to be as a transmitter for that day. So let's take a look at transmitter battery life next. So the BP-TX and the HDTX both had 10 hours of battery life. The BP-TRX has a little over 12 hours of battery life when used as a transmitter, or at least 20% more battery life than the stuff that we've produced in the past. Now, how does that compare to capacity? Well, in the past, again, the BP-TRX was only at 2200 milliamp hour battery, and the new unit that drives the BP-TRX is a 2800 milliamp hour battery, or about 22% more battery capacity than units in the past. Now, how does that compare against other transmitters that are competitively priced on the market? So we're only going to look at transmitters in roughly the same price margin. So here we go. We have a unit from Sennheiser's, the G4 SK 100 EW 100 model. And this is roughly around 8 hours of battery life based on the numbers they publish in their specs list. When we look at the Sony UWP system, the new unit, the B40, it also roughly gets around 8 hours of battery life based on the manufacturer's published numbers. And the Audio-Technica System 10 gets 7 hours plus. We don't know anything more than that, just based on what exactly they're claiming there. We don't try to claim any extra numbers for them, just based on their own numbers here. And of course, when we compare that to the BP-TRX, we're looking at roughly 33% more battery compared to transmitters competitively priced. So let's take a look at now RF power. RF power here, we're going to compare to other 2.4 gigahertz transmitters on the market because we want to show how 2.4 stacks up against each other. Because we know a lot of people out there are not familiar with 2.4, or if they are familiar with 2.4, they go, well, I just don't like it. I don't trust it. I think it gets interference. Well, let's talk about the actual numbers at 2.4. Here's the numbers as we see it today based on manufacturers' published numbers or their FCC filings. And based on these facts and numbers, this is how they all stack up against each other. And here's where the BP-TRX stacks up. So as you can see, we come in significantly hotter, but again, if you need to, you can get more battery life and dial it down to where they normally sit. If you're doing something in the same room, you could of course get something that is more significant in terms of range if you want to go up higher in capacity. And here's my slide. I'm ahead of my slides. I'm already looking 3 slides ahead. So yeah, here's where we stack up. We're 10 times more powerful on average versus our competitors. But again, if you want to, you can drop it down to 10 milliwatts and get you more extra battery life. So let's actually take a look at the new antenna design. So the BP-TX had an antenna that was a traditional standard whip antenna, very nice and flexible SMA, removable. If it gets damaged, you can swap it all out. It's a wonderful design of an antenna. The new BP-TRX antenna is actually a dipole antenna and is actually producing roughly around 20% more efficiency than in previous versions of the antenna design that we've done. This will give you a more stable signal and longer range. So if you've had issues with your units in the past or don't trust 2.4, know that what we've done is really help the 2.4 gigahertz get to the end result that you want it to be, which is to your receiver. We are trying to make it so that the signal delivered to the customer is what it sounds like at the actual microphone head as best as possible. But again, let's see if interference does happen. Well, we have a recorder built in. And here are some of the specs of our recorder module that is built into each unit. So we have frame accurate time code of 0.2 parts per million. This is going to be a great time code kind of base system where you're only going to experience 1 frame of drift every 24 hours. Now the micro SD card that's supported is exFAT, which means you can go between PC and Mac if this is something you're really looking for. Of course, you can do an exFAT or you can do FAT32, which does limit your record capabilities, but it's okay. We're going to limit your record capabilities anyway to 2 gigabyte files. This way, every 2 gigabytes, whenever you hit record, let's say you go 2 hours, we're going to create a brand new file anyway and start another one. It's going to have no gaps in the middle of those files either. Your time code is going to be seamless. So FAT32 is also more than capable. And also if you're running smaller cards like under 8 gigabytes, FAT32 might be your only option in terms of the way file compatibility works. So we wanted to kind of give everyone the best of everything that they possibly could want. As you can see here by the slide, 1 hour of recorded audio is roughly around 1 gigabyte of data. Depends on, of course, if you're reading it on a Mac or PC. It's going to read slightly different based on how it defines the word gig, but this is about roughly where it sits. We do have an onboard file manager that's going to allow you to do things like if you need to delete or rename or kind of move things around, you can do that through the file manager. And we do have USB-C for onboard file fast transfers. When we're looking at the battery life of timecode boxes that do record, okay, so these are units that can receive timecode in some capacity and do record. This is where the rest of the competition kind of stacks up. We have 6.5 gigahertz, 6.5 hours with electrosonics. The Tentacle Sync Track E comes in at 10 hours. The Zoom F2 Bluetooth edition gets 14 hours with high capacity lithium batteries. And the BP-TRX comes in at 21 hours of record time without having to turn the unit off and without the screen turning off the whole time. Oh, I'm sorry, the screen does turn off because we do have a lock screen that keeps the actor from being able to disable everything. So there is locks in place to keep the thing running for 21 plus hours. On average, we do feature around 1.5 to 3 times more battery life than most recorders on the market. So let's look at it in an RX mode situation. So everything we've looked at right now is what does it do when it's a transmitter? What does it do when it's a recorder or when it wants to be a recorder and a transmitter together outside the United States? Well, remember, it can also be a receiver. And as a receiver, it can connect to your BP-TX units and your HDTX units that you may already own. It can also be, of course, a stereo receiver. So it's got 3 output modes. It's got XLR, it's got DSLR, and timecode sync mode, which means this as a receiver can output timecode and audio at the same time, or it can do it through IM mode and some other modes that we'll look here in a second. So I know you guys probably have IM questions. We'll get to that here in 1 second. As a receiver also, it's nice that you can it's nice that you can actually use the USB-C port in order to power the unit if you're doing a bag setup and you want just a couple of these as extra channels in your bag. Plug a USB-C cable in there, plug it into your BDS system, and you can run it off the bag in your sound, your whole sound setup. And as a receiver, it's got about 12 hours of battery life. That's without it plugged in. With it plugged in, it's going to just continue to go as long as you send it power, then plus 12 hours. So let's talk about that IM and camera hop mode. This is where it gets a little outside of the normal mindset that we know of when it comes to transmit records, especially in the 2.4 gigahertz, where it's typically 1-to-1. You can transmit up to 4 IEMs from one BP-TRX. So what does that mean? You can take one BP-TRX unit, set it up as a master transmitter, and pair 4 units either as an IEMs, all 4, or all 4 camera hops, or you can mix and match it so that you have 2 camera hops and 2 IEMs. Maybe you're only sending signal to 1 camera and then 3 people on set can have wireless ears. All that can be done using these modes right here. Now, what makes these modes slightly different than that of normal RX mode is the menu changes. So in all of our settings, as you select a different mode, the menu changes to only show you settings that pertain to what it is you are doing, so it feels like a natural device. As a camera hop, it can output timecode along with audio, and because it's got an onboard TXCO chip that really allows it to stay accurate to 0.2 points per million, even if you lose range, you are always in sync with your camera. So if a camera operator wants to go and get a couple of B-roll shots or do something else that's well outside the range of what your film set is, his footage will sync right up with the rest of everyone else's footage. So if you're doing stuff like reality TV, documentary work, this is a really nice feature to have. Again, as an IM and camera hop mode, you're looking at roughly around 12 hours of battery life. It's no extra to run the timecode clock. And again, we can do 4 units to 1. So what does that 4 units to 1 look like on an average set? Well, on an average set, here's a diagram of what you're capable of doing. You could send timecode out of your master transmitter back into your recorder. You can send audio from the recorder into the master transmitter. You can then transmit up to 4 units. As you can see, we've got it set up as a 1 to 3 right here. So we've got 1 camera hop that's currently doing timecode and audio. And then we're sending audio to 3 IMs on our set. So this would be a great setup if you're doing something like ENG, sit-down interviews, small reality TV shows for like home builder kind of shows where you may only have 1 or 2 cameras following around a couple and a real estate agent. This is a great kind of just basic setup for small body reality or documentary filmmaking. But let's talk about more about this timecode. So in timecode box mode, here's some stuff that you can get. As you can see, the home screen on the left has changed. This is what you're going to see all the time, no matter what you're doing. You're going to see timecode clicking away, the frame rate you're currently at, and your currently battery life. There's also going to be a lock icon next to the battery that does engage once the screen is locked up. So while you can still see your screen, none of the buttons on your unit will work. and that'll prevent anyone from adjusting your time code so you don't lose time code throughout your whole day. Again, cannot stress this enough. We are pushing 0.2 parts per million timecode accuracy, which is only going to give you 1 frame drift every 24 hours. This is an industry standard across most timecode boxes. While some may give you a little bit more accuracy, this is more than accurate enough, especially for a lot of people in the production world that like to jam timecode at lunch. So you've only been on set for 6 hours. You haven't had any drift. At lunch, jam it again. Of course, again, you're not going to have any more drift. But with this kind of accuracy, you don't need the jam at lunch, nor with this kind of battery life at 25 hours, you don't even need the power down at lunch. You can just roll through your lunch without having to worry about these units at all. And we do have record run and we do have free run. Most people are going to use it with free run. Now the 3.5 millimeter input does act as your timecode input. So if you're wondering if I can use this as an IEM and record or an IEM and timecode box and all that stuff, you're gonna need to play around with what modes fit the purpose of what you're doing best. So again, there's a lot of different modes in here that you can select from, and they mix and match quite nicely with all the IO in the processing unit. So as timecode box mode, it's only gonna do timecode. It's not gonna even deal with audio. So if you're wondering about passing audio through, you probably wanna set it up as a master transmitter, then use it as a timecode box, and you could pass audio through the unit. And you could also record. But you really don't need to record if you're doing timecode and audio out to another device, because the other device is going to record. So we tried to come up with modes that were most logical based on actions used on a film set. So let's take a look at the battery life now of the timecode box. So here's a couple of timecode boxes that are quite popular from all other brands in the similar price point as the BP-TRX. And if we take a look, we've got 30 hours of battery life, 25 hours of battery life, 12 and 150. Now, why do we put both on here? 12 is when the backlight's on the whole time, which is similar to that of the BP-TRX. 150 is with the screen with no backlight at all. Here's what the Sync E comes in at, 35. And then of course the BP-TRX comes in at 25 hours. So as you can see, we're right in kind of the middle of the pack with every other kind of timecode box on the market. So if you're wondering, is 25 enough? Yeah, it should get you through a couple of days worth of shooting without having to worry about having to recharge it every single night. And of course, the BP-TRX charges and uses standard timecode cable. So if you're wondering how you charge this unit, just your basic USB-C. And when it comes to timecode, you're going to use a very basic kind of timecode cable that's very compatible with everything else. The tip of the 3.5 millimeter is the one that actually delivers and receives timecode either via the input or the output. So the same cable is used for both. And there's plenty of these kinds of cables on the market from other brands that use 3.5 millimeter for their timecode boxes. Now let's talk price. The BP-TRX comes in at $249 US. Now, let's say you wanted a 2-pack because you want to be able to do a single channel wireless. We've got the Deity Connect timecode kit. Either you have 2 pocket recorders here in the United States, or you have a single channel wireless. For those who are our international friends, you have a single channel wireless that records. That's going to come in at $479 US. And for those who need all the bells and whistles, who need the dual channel receivers, we've also got the deluxe kit. And what's great about the deluxe kit is we also upgraded the lavaliers to the WLAV Pro, our IP57 waterproof lavalier that comes in at 4 millimeters. All for the price of $699. So there you have it. That is what we've got to announce today. I think we've probably got quite a lot of questions from the audience. I know this is a lot to go over. It's a device that you probably have never seen quite before. I guess the question coming in from Jeremy is, IEM plus recorder at the same time? I mean, it's not currently possible, mostly based on the fact that when you're in an IEM mode, you can only adjust the headphone volume. And in fact, the keys on the front of the unit up and down adjust your volume. When you hand an IEM to someone on set, when we talk to a lot of people, the last thing they wanted was to be able to have a producer or director go and mess anything up. So we've limited the menu in IEM mode to the bare essentials. What mode you're in, headphone volume, pairing. That's it. And what we try to do is just keep it as simple as possible so it felt as native as possible to the user who's using it in a particular mode. So if you're in timecode box mode, you're only going to see timecode settings. You're not going to see any transmission settings. It's going to feel just like every other timecode box on the market. When you're looking at an IM mode, you're only going to see headphone volume. So I also see another question just came in. It's all about charging time. So, well, we've talked great about the battery life, it being, 12 plus hours as a transmitter and receiver, 21 plus hours as a pocket recorder, and 25 plus hours as a timecode box. How long does it take to actually charge this unit? Charges from 0 to full in 130 minutes. So just shy over 2 hours. So most people are going to sit there going, I don't have 130 minutes. That sounds like a long time. Until you realize you've only been operating it for 6 hours when you hit lunch, which means it's not going to take the full 130 minutes. It should charge up to full by the time you're done with your lunch. So the new antenna works with the old... Oh, here's another question. Yeah, the new antenna works with the old BP-TRX? Yes, it does. So if you want, you can get the new antenna design, the BP-TRX dipole antenna, that's 20% more efficient. You can plug it onto your old BP-TRX units and get that same efficiency delivered on your old units. Those will be available as spare parts on our web store and through dealers in the coming months. They're just not available currently right now. Is there any other questions that we have from the audience? I know this device is something that most people have never seen. At the end of the day, it's best to think of it as a computer with a bunch of I/O. How do you want that I/O to connect to each other? And if you can come up with an idea of what I/O you're trying to connect and what device it's most similar to, that's probably the name of the mode in the unit itself that it's trying to mimic. Stuff like timecode box, IEM, camera hop, transmitter receiver, or there is no actual mode in the unit itself for sound device or for a USB sound card. All you got to do is just plug it right into the computer and pull it up in your preferences, and it'll pull up as an audio input as well as an output device. So I see we've got one last question coming on in. Our kit, what does that say? Our kits included necessary cables. I just want to say everything that ships with the unit is pretty much everything you need to get that unit operational. So to take it into what it looks like, if you were to get a single unit just like this, right, and we were to include a lavalier, a sync cable, and I believe, where is a USB-C charge cable, that's going to be $249 right there. So you're going to use everything as by itself as possible is included. Now for the dual kit, you get literally double of everything right here in this kit, as well as you get a little DSLR mount, so you can DSLR mount up one of the units as a receiver. What's great about these units is the back of the unit right here is a 1/4-20 screw. If you take this screw off, you're going to see a 1/4-20 mount. All you got to do, take that little DSLR mount right here, mount it right up, and these units are now working great. So I know a lot of people like to use Velcro and things like that. The whole surface is smooth right there. If you want to put some kind of Velcro or hook and loop, you can do that. Or you can use some kind of DSLR mount and go into the cold shoe of a device, maybe add a cold shoe to a camera cage, and now you have a timecode box that is locked into the camera. So if you're doing running gun or documentary work where you need something that is going to hold up to the elements, you can just lock it right into the unit, or even just go right to the cage directly with a 1/4-20. So much more durable kind of engineering in order to mount this in different kind of situations. Use with XLR microphones is the next question. The answer is no. That's what the HDTX is for. The HDTX provides phantom power. It's also got a built-in recorder. It can record and transmit inside the United States when you have selected XLR and phantom power. So if you're doing like a wireless boom pole situation or just a wireless plant mic, the HDTX is the unit for you. This is really designed for wearable microphones like lavaliers or small plant mics that you may plug into it onto the 3.5mm jack. Not really meant for XLR type microphones. Though, I will say if you have an XLR microphone from another brand that runs off AA batteries, I think there's a few of them on the market. Those XLR microphones, if you select your AA as your power source, that can be used with the new BP-TRX. So yes, but just a straight XLR microphone that runs off Phantom, that's what you're going to want that that's what you're going to want the HDTX for. Is the RX the same as the old RX from the Connect kit? So the Duo RX is what's included in the Deluxe kit. This is the same one as previously before. So this is going to give you a dual setup. So in its menu, you can actually connect over to 2 units and wirelessly control those 2 units. So if you need to change a setting on an actor, let's say they're a little bit too hot and I need to go turn on my limiter, instead of me getting up, walking over and fiddling with it and then having to go and hide it all again, and hopefully wardrobe can clean up my mess because, you know, I've messed up everything just to get to my transmitter. I don't need to do anything like that. I can dial into that transmitter, turn the analog limiter on from the receiver, send the command over. It's going to send back that it's confirmed everything, and you're good to go. So yeah, it does still operate with the old Duo RX. When you pair the 2 units together, by the way, as a single channel wireless, you can have one set up as a receiver, one set up as a transmitter, and in the receiver menu of a BP-TRX, you can control the other BP-TRX unit. The only thing you can't control is the record module for the United States operators. Charge with the power bank. Yeah, you can charge with the power bank. Any USB type A port, these things will charge up with, no problem. And some compatible USB-C chargers out there. USB-C is kind of a very funny format in terms of charging and what it's all compatible with, but all USB type A ports are compatible with these units. So any other kind of questions out there, drop them down in the comment section below. We've got Deity Steve back there checking all your guys' comments in these chats, grabbing the questions that make the most entertaining kind of an answer for you guys, so you guys learn the most about the product. So if you've got any more kind of questions, right now is a great time to ask them because Steve is grabbing those questions for us. If you don't have any more questions, you can also head over to our website, deitymic.com/BP-TRX to learn more about the BP-TRX, as well as go and find out any kind of information. If you have more questions after this live stream is over, of course, you can email us via the contact form on our website, deitymic.com/contact. If you have nothing else to kind of worry about, I think we're going to wrap this thing up. Let me just check real fast with Steve. Is there any more questions? No, no more questions. I'm happy to say that you guys have been a wonderful audience. Really love interacting with you guys. We can't wait till trade shows come back and we get to hang out with you guys in person again. Thank you again for attending our live stream. We hope the BP-TRX is everything you want it to be. And of course, it is available for sale right now all around the world.